Despite winning 46 games, last season would be an incredibly forgettable one for both Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors. There would be some belief among fans that if the Warriors got into the playoffs, then they would be able to rekindle some of that old magic with anything being able to happen. Well, that wouldn't be the case. Not only would the Warriors not make the playoffs, but they would lose their very first playing game to the Sacramento Kings. And the way that they lost that game doesn't make you feel any better about them losing it. The threads that have held the Warriors together have been unraveling for some time. And with this latest news that has dropped about Steph Curry, it seems that everything might potentially be on the verge of finally falling apart. If the Warriors don't pull off this next move, then things could get ugly out in Golden State. And we have to talk about it all. But first, for a limited time, when you select either of these discounted LeBron James or Nikola Jokic projections and they score more than just 0.5 points on Underdog Fantasy, that projection will hit. To take advantage of this promo from Underdog and the minuscule amount of basketball that we get until the preseason, all you have to do is download the Underdog Fantasy app from the App Store or click the link in the description below, and right now, when you sign up using my code COOP, you can get a $250 deposit bonus and special limited time bonus square. Daily fantasy and staying entertained during the off season has never been easier. Thank you, Underdog, for the sponsor. Just like I said in my most recent Westbrook video about Jokic, Steph Curry is one of the best players in the world and is going to retire as one of the best players to ever play the game. It makes sense that a guy like this, even at 36 years old, turning 37 next year, wants to compete and maximize every remaining year of their career, which is something that the Warriors just might not be able to do. So far, it's been an okay offseason for the Warriors, but not a good enough one to where you look at their roster on paper and tremble in fear or even expect them to be in the mix, and for Steph Curry, that's a problem. Let's look at some of the key moves that the Warriors have made this offseason. So they lost stretch big man Dario Saric, they waived one of the greatest point guards of all time in Chris Paul, and they let Klay Thompson, one of the greatest shooters ever and a key piece to their dynasty, go to Dallas via a sign and trade. What did they add? They signed DeAnthony Melton, they traded for Kyle Anderson, and they also traded for Buddy Hield. These moves would be solid, but at the same time unspectacular by themselves. But with the Warriors' young talent being heavily coveted, these moves would make me think that the Warriors were trying to shore up their depth just in case a monster move did go down. So far, nothing has happened on that front, but still all signs are pointing to something huge coming. If Curry's recent comments hold any sort of weight, the Warriors will either be making a monster trade to keep Curry happy, or making a monster trade that sends Curry to a destination that at least gives him a chance to compete. In a recent interview with Andscape, Steph Curry said this when he was asked about the departure of Klay Thompson. "It's still weird, man. I haven't really figured out the emotions yet, just because it's one of those pieces that really won't sink in until you get into October and you go into the locker room and you're in your familiar sights and sounds of the Chase Center. All things have to come to an end at some point. I wish it would have turned out differently. I wish we could have rode into the sunset, all three of us as Warriors for our whole career." Klay made a decision that he felt was best for himself. What we were able to do for how long we were able to do it, and together, it's special, and it speaks volumes to how hard it is to do that. So I'm going to choose to celebrate all the things we accomplished and all the experiences we had, instead of feeling any type of resentment or getting mad about it. It's still weird though. If it's a situation where you're a bottom feeder and it's just because you want to stay there with the same team your entire career, I'd have a hard time with that. But I don't think that's going to be the reality. That's some heavy stuff from Steph, but wait, it gets even better. In that same interview with Andscape, Steph would be asked about how he felt about the bad teams that Kobe and Dirk played on to close their careers, to which he would say, "Winning is always a priority, but obviously you're realistic. It doesn't mean that it's going to happen if you stay the course. You need to shake things up and keep reimagining what it looks like to evolve with what the league is at right now. with where some of these talented teams are now. So Steph said that he doesn't think that the Warriors, who were a play-in team last season, will be a bottom feeder in a conference that improved across the board. How could Steph confidently say something like that when the rest of the West only got better? Steph and Draymond are a year older, and the Warriors have yet to make a huge splash this offseason. That's because Steph, who wants to remain in Golden State as long as possible, has clearly put the ball in the Warriors' court. Remember that when the Warriors were struggling earlier this past season that he said this: "It's pretty evident that if things stay the same," that's the definition of insanity, right? Keep doing the same thing but expecting different results? I don't know about you guys, but to me, Steph is making it incredibly clear what he wants. It's not a surprise that earlier this offseason that we almost saw the Warriors land a Paul George who wanted to be in Golden State. This deal was actually so close to happening that Paul George himself said that I was looking forward to it if it had happened. I'd have been a lot closer to home and would probably still live in LA. So that brings us to the question, why did this deal fall apart? Reportedly, it fell apart because the Warriors didn't want to include Kuminga in it. That's right, Jonathan Kuminga was apparently the Warriors' breaking point. But again, just because the Warriors haven't made a huge move this offseason, that doesn't mean that they won't. The Warriors want to be competitive next season, and they want to be competitive so bad that they're still very much a threat to land Lauri Markkanen. The latest reports coming out of Golden State regarding Lauri and the Warriors are that the Warriors are in fact in the driver's seat for him, despite the Spurs' recent interest, which we will discuss in a video very soon, so be sure to subscribe and turn on those noties so that you don't miss it. So according to Mark Stein, while the Warriors are interested in Lauri, the Utah Jazz are interested in Pods. So much so that their interest in him has been the driving force, keeping the hopes of a Lauri Markkanen trade alive. But while the Jazz are interested in Pods, according to Brett Siegel, the Warriors are doing everything that they can to keep Kuminga and him out of any Lauri talks. Reportedly, the Warriors have offered the Jazz Moody and multiple first-round picks for Lauri, but no Pods or Kuminga. If that's true, that's a bold but needed move by Mike Dunleavy Jr., who has only been hearing those echoes of Curry wanting to be competitive this upcoming season, growing louder and louder. Now, according to Mark Stein, it is believed that if the Warriors did have to trade one of Kuminga or Pods, that they would be more willing to trade Kuminga, who was off limits during the Paul George trade talks, which again was a major reason that that trade fell apart in the first place. Is this a bad time to mention that Bleacher Report has Kuminga as the single most overrated player in the league? I just know that Danny Ainge greenlighted this article going live. Sure, Kuminga has a lot of work to do and he's still raw, but he is somebody who averaged a raw 16.1 points on 52.9% from the field at just 21 years old for a team that won 46 games. That's not too bad. Now, the Warriors trading for Lauri to appease Curry's appetite to be competitive is really one of those damned if you do, damned if you don't situations that you really just have to get it right for it to pay off like you want it to. And in this case, that payoff might just be Curry staying and playing competitive basketball, which he stated at the end of the day is all that he truly wants. But the question is, would it be worth it? Draymond Green knows that a short-sighted trade to appease him and Steph could absolutely wreck the Warriors' future, which is why he's advising against one.
We was just about to make some trades last week, and I told them straight up, like, yo, that trade helped me. Like, it'll help me right now in my career these last couple years and stuff. But I've always spoke to y'all from a place of what's best for this organization. I won't stop now. Yeah. That's a bad trade. Like, don't do that trade. Like, I disagree with it, although it's gonna help me right now.
So let's just say that Pods, Wiggins, Moody, and picks get included in a Lauri to the Jazz package this offseason. Below, tell me where you see a lineup of Curry, Melton, Kuminga, Lauri, Green, and sixth man Buddy Hield finishing in the Western Conference, assuming good health and Curry having a good regular season at 36. I'm probably giving that team the 6th seed. Now also let me know, if you're a Warriors fan, that if you even want this trade to go down in the first place. Do you think that it's worth sacrificing your future to keep Curry happy, or do you think that sending him to a contender while you rebuild is the move? Personally, I wouldn't want to be the person who has to strike a deal with Danny Ainge for a star player. But desperate times call for desperate measures. Pods, Moody, Kuminga, and TJD figure to take sizable leaps next season. But for the Warriors to be competitive, they undoubtedly need another star who can take some of that pressure off of Curry, who was dealing with fatigue last season. There's some more going on in the NBA right now that I need to be covering, so clicking the video on the screen right now is a great way to support this channel. I'm GetLikeCoop, bringing you guys the scoop until our next upload.